Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. Today is September 12, 2015, and I'm here at the West Park Presbyterian Church for the Declassify 9/11 symposium, and I'm talking with 9/11 victims' family member, Mr. Bob McIlvaine. How are you doing?
Pleasure.
So, 14th anniversary, you've been involved with this movement for some amount of years now, trying to get justice for your son. What feels different to you this year compared to past years?
To be honest, nothing. I've been doing this so long, and I really don't have any faith in this country, and I don't have faith that this will ever come to fruition because they just can't afford to. The world politics won't allow it because it'll just, we are an empire, and an empire is not going to allow this to bring them down. Personally, as far as the Saudi Arabian, this releasing the 28 pages, as I said in my speech, if Hannity or not Hannity, O'Reilly, if they're talking about it and you're seeing it all the time, something's up. I mean, I think that they should come out, but the thing is, they're willing to throw the Saudis under the bus. They'll talk about the guys that died, some of the princes that died afterwards, and they're trying to just sweep this under. The Saudis will be the designated patsies. There's something playing in this. Steinberg was saying that 9/11 families will get closure. I was really pissed off when I got up there. I said, I won't even have one little bit of closure if those pages. And I have no problem having the pages come out. I asked for it years and years ago. As part of that movement. A lot of family members do want it, but it's still not good. It's just telling a little part of the stories.
Do you think that those pages, like you said, would be more about redirecting the blame towards Saudi Arabia? In your research and your opinion on this matter, being so close to it, do you feel like there's more than just Saudi Arabia to blame?
Well, I blame the United States. It really is important to look at history. What controls the world? It's money. We don't talk about the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. These people control the world, okay? So, blaming it on Bush or blaming it on Cheney, that's silly. Blaming it on Israel is silly. Everyone's a patsy in this. You know what I mean? It's a matter of controlling the resources of the world. It's the Middle East. It's the strategy of contention that went back to the early 80s. That's what they want. They don't want peace. They don't want democracy. War makes money. You go back to Smedley Butler. War is a racket, and it's the same thing. So, even like the Saudi Arabia thing, the 28 pages. As I said in the speech, I went to Hamilton. Family members are there, demanding it. And he said, well, because of national security, we won't allow it. But, here's a left gatekeeper, October surprise, Iran-Contra. I've been doing my homework. This is what this guy does. He protects the United States, and he tells lies. Well, again, if this is on TV, it's like, oh, geez, our free press has allowed this information to come out. Well, they got something planned.
There must be some reason they're talking about it.
They'll make them pat. They don't give it. They'll gladly throw, they won't throw the country under, but they don't care about getting rid of their prince this, prince that. They've changed regimes anyway, so.
You all right? No, you're fine.
So I support the efforts of people doing that. But the thing is, I know people will contact me, and whatever I feel is the right thing to say, I will say it. I'm not a part of A&E Truth. I'm not part of this Saudi Arabia thing. So I'm going to speak my piece. I think the United States was involved in it, but if I say that, again, Bush and Cheney, they're all puppets of the world. They don't get, they have no say in anything. To think that any politician, any president has any say in anything, you're an idiot.
No, I absolutely agree. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what has been the response from your interactions with other family members in your pursuit of truth. Is there, amongst the 9/11 family members, which is obviously a range of people with different ideas and opinions, but generally, is it sort of, we just want to be left alone, or are there other family members with questions who don't speak publicly, or have you been attacked for your positions? What's been your experience?
It's indifference. Of course, when I was going to the hearings, the Jersey girls, they were so involved in it, and I was sort of on their coattails, their activities. But it's just, if you have a family, they were brutalized. They were absolutely brutalized as they got further into it because they're becoming too powerful. And if you have a family, you have to say, I can't do this. I got to take care of my family. I'm at a point now, my son, I have another son and he has little kids, but I can do what I want. And it's just people, family members. Well, my wife I got an argument with a family member down at Ground Zero this year, 2 days ago. And, or was that, yeah, it was yesterday. And it was brutal, and she went to my wife and said, how can your husband think this way? But it's just too painful. They just don't want to believe it. It's again saying your father's a rapist. You just don't want to believe that your country could possibly do something like that. And the fact that I would even say it. Now, if you want to have a conversation about it, we can sort of get away from the country and say, well, to me, it's a world event. You know what I mean? It's about controlling money.
It's not just the United States government. This is much bigger than that.
It is much bigger than that. And it always has been that way. You look at World War I. Well, it wasn't the United States getting involved in it, but the idea of the money of the world, we have to control what's happening. The takeover of Russia. Well, that wasn't a people's revolution. That was a revolution of rich people.
The bankers.
Yes, and it's always that way. So it's, but to explain that to people, and 9/11 family members. Well, my wife saw it's the first event she's going to this year, and she saw the movie yesterday, and it's the first time that she.
Been open.
She said, it takes the emotion away watching the scientific. We know that Bobby died of an explosion, but she said it takes the emotion away from 9/11. I looked at that, seeing the mist, seeing the buildings coming down. It's the first time she's really looked. She says, now, if you die, I will talk about it.
The truth continues on.
Yeah, so it's...
So
friends and 9/11 family members they've ignored it.
And I think that's generally the situation that we deal with in the public as well. Those of us who do the research as journalists and as activists, we deal with that. We try to talk to people on the street, and you get the people like, how dare you, how could you possibly be here? And then they claim to, and this has been the unfortunate side effect for the last 14 years, is that you guys, the family members and the victims themselves, are used for whatever political purpose that people choose to use at that moment, whether it's remember 9/11 but don't question it. In your opinion, what can people actually do to honor the victims of 9/11 and the surviving family members?
Well, to take a stand and research it. But the thing is, and I'll just give you an example. A friend of mine who was a financial advisor, but he called me once and apologized. He says, I'm sorry I didn't look into this. He says, I have suddenly done that. But you know what happened to him? He ended up getting divorced, and he left his job because he's just so dumbfounded that this can happen. My friend's a Superior Court judge in Lackawanna County, and his his staff member looked into 9/11. He took his family and went to South America. So it can ruin your life and if your wife doesn't support you, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because it just brings a lot of heat on you.
It definitely causes you to reevaluate your whole life.
It has to. Again, it's your father is a criminal, a horrible criminal, massacred people. And they don't want to look at the government and say that happened. It's just, it's a brutal, brutal thing.
So the best thing we can do, you're hearing it from Bob himself, from one of the family members, is to continue to research this topic, continue to look into it to find out the truth. And as you said, the 28 pages, it's at least given us something in the mainstream to kind of hang on and keep pushing the issue. But will that lead to the full truth of 9/11? More than likely not.
Yeah. Well, my important thing is this way I can stay away from family members, because Bobby died. We took his body home that week. We found him on Thursday, took him home Friday, and we buried him. And he was mutilated. But I can prove, I'll tell family members this, that he was blown up. There was no ifs, ands, and buts about it. As my wife Helen said, the Richard Gage's movie that he showed yesterday, again, took that emotion out of it. My God, you see it. Any idiot would say, these buildings were blown up. Building 7, obviously, that's a demolition. An idiot can see that. My dog can see that. My grandchildren can see that. So it's... I will continue talking about that. My son was murdered. It's an inside job, just for the fact that he died. I could say he died before the planes. That's a strong possibility. When people say, how could that possibly happen? I said, because they're goddamn bombs in there. That's how it happened.
People report explosions.
Right, and I've talked to a lot of people. I talked to Willie Rodriguez. I've talked to firemen. I know my son. The idea that fireball came down is the most idiotic thing there ever is. But that's what the 9/11 Commission talked about. 2 lines saying, well, fireball came down, caused all this damage, caused damage at the past station, caused damage to refrigeration units downstairs on the 6th floor, 5th floor. This is impossible. Well, if it's impossible, then what's the story? And so, it's just a matter of, you got to keep telling that story. But again, for people to do it, it's tough. But I have an advantage because people want to talk to me because I'm a 9/11 family member.
We thank you for your work and for your time. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.